Paris Saint-Germain, 2-0 winners. I'm going to come out and say it. I thought over the two legs, Paris Saint-Germain fully deserving to go through. Could it have gone the other way? Yes, it could have. But it didn't, and Paris Saint-Germain are through.
Yeah, they're through.
Do you agree that they deserved?
2-1 even on in that second leg. I think, again, we said it after the first leg, there was just not much in between the two teams. I think the fine margin. Arsenal, for example, win the XG battle. If you like your XG, if you like your stats, they have a higher XG in the first leg and a much higher XG in the second leg, despite PSG penalty miss as well by Vitinha. So if you look at some of the stats, Arsenal had 20 shots at the Parc des Princes on Wednesday night. Nobody this season has had that many shots against this PSG team. Nobody. Not even when PSG were not as good as they are now earlier in the season. Nobody goes there and has 20 shots, but Arsenal did, and they can have regrets, I think. But overall, this PSG team showed all its qualities and all what they can do. They can weather storms. They are so clinical into boxes now. They are ruthless at times. They've got a great mentality, and that's what sometimes help you in a game where it's fine margins.
They have tremendous versatility. I made the point before. They can press you. They can play a possession game. They can go for the jugular commitment forward, but they can also sit and defend, which is kind of what we saw in the first 20, 25 minutes of the game. Arsenal having a whole bunch of chances. Gigi Donnarumma coming up huge.
Huge. Yeah.
None more so than the save off of Martin Odegaard. I mean, you can take your pick. The Saka one in the second half was good too, but he said his critics in Paris. Now, I'm sorry, I don't mean to troll you, but France is a country where you've got a big chunk of the population who don't care at all about sports, and you have a big chunk of the population with slight dysfunction that they're more into rugby and cycling. I'm assuming it's these people who have been critical of Gigi in the past and suggesting that Safonov should play, or Tenas or Keylor Navas over the years. Like, what are we talking about here?
Well, no, when he makes mistakes,
It doesn't mean you drop him when you make some mistakes.
No. But
Messi makes mistakes sometimes too.
It's not so much about dropping. It's just that when you are a goalkeeper of a team that has those kind of ambitions, like every big club, and you make mistakes and you cost the game, you cost the semi-final, you cost last 16, second leg in Madrid, all of that, obviously, it doesn't play in your favor. Okay. But I think certainly since the Arsenal game in the league phase, where he was obviously terrible and cost 2 goals and cost a defeat to the team, things have changed, especially since the turn of the year. And the Liverpool goal at the Parc des Princes, where he should do better, okay, that can happen. But then his performances away from home, especially, and the one on Wednesday night, it's just taking this team to the final. And I guess you need a great goalkeeper, as we saw with Inter and Jan Sommer, to do that.
If an average keeper plays this game for Paris Saint-Germain, are they out?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a good transition to Arteta after the game, where I think some eyebrows were a little bit raised in the sense that he said, among other things, that Arsenal were the best team in the Champions League this year. I'm going to flat out say, no, you cannot come out. It's not responsible to say that. He did say over the two legs that they were more deserving, and he said that Paris Saint-Germain, unidentified people on Paris Saint-Germain's bench, told him that you guys deserve to go through. Luis Enrique later said, no, that didn't happen. Or Luis Enrique said, I disagree with him.
Yeah.
My take, I'll give you my take first, Jules. This is a psychological game that he's playing. He wants his people to believe in himself. He says, I believe in you. This is his way of doing it. It's not like he's hit his head and is delusional.
No, you're right. But also he's been always quite positive anyway, before the first leg, between the two legs, despite the deficit of the first leg. And I think this is part also of his mentality, this team mentality. You have a big game at Liverpool on Sunday. I know it's not worth anymore because Liverpool are champions already, but you need to pick up your players, and there's different ways of doing it, through communication, through a lot of things, and that's probably his role right now. I think they've been very good in the Champions League, really, in the league phase, in the knockout phase. Maybe the best. I don't know, it's hard when you're not qualified for the final, but I can see his point of view as well.
The fact that Arteta, I also wonder too, the fact that Arteta comes out and says this, is this also a way to ensure that we're talking about these comments? So we're talking about him, and maybe is it a way also to protect your players a little bit? Because look, Martin Odegaard, fantastic footballer. I thought's been through a rough time, certainly had a rough time in the first leg. Got a knock at the weekend. Saka, good on Wednesday night, I thought. Kind of fits and bursts in the first leg. And so it seems like conversations about Arteta's comments rather than more broadly individuals. Sometimes you see coaches do that. Mourinho,
maybe. Yeah.
Whenever Mourinho does something stupid, or people think is stupid, he's protecting the players.
I don't know if the players need protecting, really, to be fair. I think he also maybe wants to, because the conversation is also like, where is this Arsenal team right now? Where are they going? Are they keep improving? It's been 5 years in the job for him. He won an FA Cup during COVID, but it's another second place potentially or third, whatever.
That's not even assured at this stage.
Yeah,
so City annoyingly are 3 points back.
No, I know, but whatever, it would be close to the title, but not the title yet. It's quarterfinal of the Champions League last season and then semi-final. So that in itself, I guess, is an improvement. I still think they're going to the right direction. He's doing an amazing job. They only have one player above the age of 30 in the team that started on Wednesday night in Paris, for example. And is Luis Kelly ready for a game like this? Maybe not. Can they learn from this? I think they can, like they did from the disappointment against Bayern last season in the quarterfinals. So I don't think it's so negative at all. And I think his comments more broadly about whether they were the best team or not in this Champions League or deserve to go to the final, I think are also comments like, we are doing things right here, which I think I agree with him. I think he's right. They are doing a lot of really good things, a lot of the right things. There's something missing, which they will have to find out and figure out what is missing and bridge that gap. But I think they're on the right way.
You make a good point about the age of the team. It's obviously a young team. There's also an elephant in the room, which is contract extensions. And the way they play this is going to be really, really big because you have William Saliba, you have Bukayo Saka, both, I think, 2027.
Yeah, 2 years,
And you also have, you're going to have to sort out Easton Ranieri, and you're going to have to sort out Miles Lewis-Skelly. Now, obviously, with the younger players, it's not so much, I think, a question of, are they going to go and play a hard game and leave? No, we have to presume they're Arsenal fans. They came up through the ranks.
Yeah.
But we've seen other young players, Aiden Heaven, Chido Obi, leave, presumably because they weren't, Arsenal said, okay, we value your contribution at XYZ, and they thought they were worth more. And in the end, they ended up moving on. So I think there's big decisions to be made upstairs. And I go back to this on January because it's a big talking point in the Arsenal sphere. You know what I'm going to say about this. Gabriel Jesus goes down. As you know, and for the record, I'm a big Kai Havertz fan. I think Kai Havertz is fine as a center forward for what he does for this team. Would it be better if you had Erling Haaland up front? Probably. But outside of that, for what he's asked to do, I don't think you need somebody to replace Havertz, but you need an alternative to him, right? That didn't happen in January. Well, it didn't happen last summer when I thought it should have happened because Gabriel Jesus, to me, is more of a wide player. After Gabriel Jesus got hurt, they made the move for Watkins. It didn't work out. As we understand it, the valuations were far, far apart, and also Villa shifted John Duran. So at that point, they decided, let's keep Watkins.
Of course.
I don't think... I think it's fair to look at this and say, this possibly cost you the Premier League title. It possibly ended up costing you this, right? There's no counterbalance to it. But I think it's pretty evident when you have Trossard or Marino up front. Those are both two guys playing out of position, especially Marino. Part of me says the worst thing that could have happened is for Mika Marino to have scored those 2 goals as an emergency center forward and then continued scoring. Because to me, the team looks completely different when he's when he's at center forward.
I think he did his best. His performance at the Bernabeu was outstanding, for example. But obviously there's limitation because the guy's a number 8 and it's just, he had to learn very quickly to do a job as a number 9. So it's different. I don't think anybody can say they would have won the Premier League with a number 9 or they would have won the Champions League or going to the final of the Champions League because they scored over 100 goals this season. Same last season. They were the best attack just behind City last season in the Premier League, for example. So I don't know if a top striker would have helped. For sure it would have. Would it have made a difference? I don't know. Is that where you lost the title last season? This season? Did you lose it through injuries that are maybe something they need to look at as well. The injuries. How can you lose Odegaard for 3 months and Saka for 4 and Havertz for 4?
Let me turn it around, right? And I realize, and obviously the injury, I think the Saka injury was obviously a major blow. But in the end, and I think this is part of the reason why there's a new director of football, Arteta, because ultimately it's about resource allocation. Arsenal put resources, and there's reasons for this. Okay, if we assume Arsenal's back four, first choice back four is Timber, when everybody's fit, Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, and Lewis Skelly. Arsenal then put resources into Calafiori, into Tomiyasu's obviously already there, with injured, missed virtually the whole season, but still he is part of that group. Kivior, again, did well to replace Gabriel, but Ben White and Zinchenko is still there. Looking at this, if you have 4 defenders, you probably maybe don't need 5 defenders to back them up, especially when some of these players, like Saliba, like Gabriel before his injury, in the past were very durable. I think this is something to look at. There's a parallel universe where Calafiori never gets injured, even though he did have an injury record coming into it.
Yeah.
Maybe Calafiori's playing midfield. I mean, I think that would have been
Kelly role. That's the idea. The idea was that Calafiori would play as a left back, coming inside, inverting a lot.
Okay, here's what I think. I think in the back of their minds, they wondered, could Calafiori play midfield instead of Partey? Not now, obviously, right? But if everything was fine, is this somebody? Because we have Lewis Skelly coming through. We obviously have Timber who can play left back with White right back, whatever. But that was one of the possibilities. So they put their resources into defenders. Many of them are comfortable with who could play midfield. And I think Eddie Nketiah left, not replaced. And then Gabriel Jesus gets injured. Nobody coming in. And it could have been a short-term loan and whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's going to change under Berta. I don't think Berta has any issue with short-term loans to plug a gap when somebody's injured. Whether that'll work, I don't know. In terms of the 5-year progress, I mean, I think you have to be a moron to suggest that they haven't made any progress in 5 years. I mean, that's nailed on. But clearly the concern is we assume City are going to be back next season, that they're not going away. We assume, United and Spurs can't be as terrible as they were this year.
No, for sure.
Chelsea up in the air. And we assume Liverpool are going to be, it's not like Liverpool are going to turn bad all of a sudden, right? Yeah. So even that sense of selling the club to the fans and to public opinion, I think that's going to be the challenge.
Yeah.
On Paris Saint-Germain, where I thought, you talk about how young they are, I thought Dembele not starting this game, I think, all right, this is going to be a blow. How are they going to interpret this? Because he has the big game experience. What did you think?
I thought the first 20 minutes when they're under pressure is also because he's not there, really. And they are a weaker side without him, for sure. They struggle to beat the press because he's one of the outlet to beat the press, and you don't have that with Barcola or Doué. Barcola played the first 15 minutes as a number 9, then he was Doué. They don't know how to play that position, certainly not like Dembele. So you could see how much he was missed and how much he was really missing in what they were trying to do with the ball. And even without the ball, their press was not as efficient without him. And Luis Enrique was really frustrated on the touchline, like more than I've rarely seen him, but also because PSG were rattled like I've never seen them this season, even when they were not as good as they are now. Like, again, we said that earlier, but nobody goes there and batter them like Arsenal did for the first 20 minutes. So I think Dembele not being there is a huge call from Luis Enrique because he could have started him. They just didn't think he had 90. Well, it's not. He didn't have 90 minutes in him, even less 120 minutes in case the game had gone to extra time. So you just see how the game goes and you bring him on for the last 20, 30 if you need him. And that's what they did in the end. I think some people at the club even were hoping that you wouldn't need him full stop, that this PSG team without him could do a job where you could just rest him pretty much. But he just came on at the end, gave the assist on the Hakimi goal, and that's it. This is another assist. Even if he didn't score, he still had an impact when he only played like 25 minutes. It's ridiculous.
All right, I've given my Valentine to Donnarumma. I'm going to save it for another former Serie A player. Kvaratskhelia, I'm just going to remind people about that. He spent the first 6 months of the season at Napoli, obviously, waiting for the phone to ring. He thought the phone was going to ring in the summer. He was still on his teeny tiny Dinamo Batumi contract that they got at Naples. Yeah. Obviously, wasn't on Dinamo Batumi wages, but it was not a lot. I think he runs counter to what Paris Saint-Germain have been doing of late, in the sense that he was seen as an absolute soloist in Italy. He looks like a throwback, right down with those weird socks that he wears down to his ankle. He did not feel like somebody Luis Enrique would want to bring in. And yet he has integrated, I think, really, really well in this. Hit the post. Wasn't maybe as good as the first leg, but did a lot of work. Really did a ton of work defensively.
Yeah.
And I think it's a wonderful story. And Kvaratskhelia is no more, but Kvaratskhelia one day, maybe?
Kvaratskhelia.
You like that, huh?
I'm not sure. Why Kvaratskhelia?
Well, he plays wide, scores some goals. Yeah. Tricky dribbler.
Yeah, I mean, same number, that's for sure. I'll give you that. Yeah. I think he was outstanding. But really, Joe Neves, like some players maybe not at their best, like Nuno Mendes, for example, which we've been used to being so good.
Marquinhos, arguably, on the goal.
Yeah, and he's probably the weakest link in that team, to be fair, the weakest point. But some of the other individual performances, like for a team that is so good collectively, and that's what sets it apart, I think, compared to other PSG teams of the past, it's also individually that they made the difference on Wednesday.
All right.